Beep, 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 beep. Hello. Ha! How we doing? Good peeps. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. Shut up, Barry. Some of you will be aware, because you keep up with the goings and doings of my channel, right? Okay, that I did a thing the other day about Ibram X. Kendi, which was about critical race theory. Do you remember? And the fact that he's, one of the gurus, but he's had to make his department smaller. They only produced 2 documents, and they've had about 30 million quid or whatever it is. Do you remember? He's an American guy. Complete nut. So I was really pleased to get up and discover a very good article from a Substack that I follow called Pamela's Newsletter. That's all it's called, simply Pamela's Newsletter. And it's from a lady called Pamela Garfield Yeager. I think it's Yeager, not Jaeger. I'm sure somebody will put me right if I'm wrong. Pamela Garfield Yeager. And Pamela's talking about critical race theory and mental health, which I thought was very interesting. So I've read the article and I suggest you do the same. So let's do some excerpts from the article, as just so that you can get a flavour for it before you dive in, because it's got fair bit of meaty stuff going on in it. Now, the other thing is, of course, that people say to me, why are you interested in critical race theory? Because you're normally going on about the genders and the queerness, right? Okay? They don't say it like that. That's me, right? But you get my drift, right? Well, because it's the same thing. That's why, okay? Get your head around it. Now, obviously, our primary motivator, most of the people that watch me, most of the people I talk to, and the warrior teachers, our primary motivator is an end to gender, is an end of the gender identity ideology nonsense and the queer nonsense, is an end to that being taught, it's an end to it being taken in any way seriously, and it's an end to things like the Gender Recognition Act and all the stuff that comes with it, right? That's the first thing that we need to state. Of course it is, right? But I've said it before and I'll say it again. Critical race theory is a different problem, but a bigger one, right? The first lot, genderqueer, very important, children, women, gay people, right? Critical race theory is a much bigger hydra altogether, but there are other people out there trying to deal with this particular hydra. So what Pamela's interested in this newsletter is the impact of critical race theory on the mental health of children. And this is from a book called The Parent's Guide to Mental Health. It's a USA based, so we're in America. Oh, say, can you see Americals, right? We're in the Americals. So let's get started, and I'll give you a flavour of the article, and then you can go and have a look later on yourselves when you've got a coffee and possibly an eclair in your hand, right? So it begins. Critical race theory is a very damaging concept that is now woven into almost everything children experience in school. Media, mainstream entertainment, and therapy. It is not a specific school lesson, but an entire worldview that promotes victimhood and guilt according to skin colour. Simply, the reduction of people to groups based on skin colour, the oppressor-oppressed status, and the condemnation or elevation of these groups is detrimental to child development. You see there the structural comparison. Oppressed-oppressor, and the elevation of different groups, as we talked about, affinity groups, this idea of affinity groups by immutable characteristics, which I've mentioned before, and they've just given Just Like Us, the lottery fund's just given Just Like Us, a company, £400,000 to have more of them. After school clubs for LGBTQ people, right? CRT, critical race theory, is harmful in the following ways. It divides communities, it lowers motivation, it increases depression and lowers self-esteem. CRT also induces anger, fear, and sometimes brings out a trauma response. Most importantly, CRT sets many kids up to fail. In this course, I will explain how critical race theory is harmful to the mental health of children and share what you as a parent can do. So then we have a separate heading. What is critical race theory? Critical race theory has been presented in the media as a way to teach black history. But in reality, it is an ideology that divides people by race. It teaches that the United States today in 2023 is systemically racist. Systemic racism is defined as discrimination or unequal treatment on the basis of membership in a particular ethnic group, typically one that is minority or marginalised. arising from systems, structures, or expectations that have become established within society or an institution. It teaches that no matter what the context or circumstances, a person with darker skin is a victim of racial bias and a Caucasian person is an oppressor, including little children. So it's the playbook's the same, folks. You get it? Right? The playbook's the same. Critical race theory champions equitable outcomes over equal opportunity. Very important to understand that. The equitable outcomes over equal opportunity. Equity is, of course, murderous. A school that follows CRT guidelines gives allowances for black students' behaviours and academics over white students. A person is no longer judged by merit, but rather the colour of their skin. Critical race theory teaches that every white person has certain privileges over a black person. No matter the context, even if you're comparing a person like LeBron James, the famous basketball player, to a white homeless man, then LeBron James is still the oppressed. Right? Dingbats, okay? Now this horrible, nasty theory came from the American universities and the academics in the first place. So from our perspective in the UK, couldn't be happening, could it? Oh, go and have a look. Go and have a look. You think it couldn't be happening? It's happening. They're gonna bring on their utopian revolution if it kills them. That's what they're after. So CRT also states that Asians or any non-whites that do well are white adjacent. That's how dangerous it is. CRT is in schools and other institutions using many hidden terms that seem innocuous. Again, that changing of language, that making language that means one thing means something else. What sounds to be a good thing turns out to be a bad thing, right? That's what anti-racism and racism, that's CRT, see? Anti-racism, gender affirming surgery, which is code for mutilation and female genital mutilation, and generally bodily mutilation, yeah. So they changed the words. So here's the words. CRT is in school. The terms seem innocuous, but here's some of the examples. White fragility, intersectionality, white privilege, social justice, unconscious bias, anti-racism, white adjacent, white supremacy, minoritized racial groups, victims versus oppressor, equity and inclusion and diversity, restorative justice. CRT supports, one that I left out of the list was the 1619 project, because I want to talk about that separately. CRT supports the 1619 project, which asserts that the US was founded when the first slaves arrived in the US, rather than in 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was signed. Even though this theory was widely promoted by the New York Times, it has since been debunked by many historians and scholars. However, many activists still promote this theory, and it is still taught in many schools. BLM is the organisation that most strongly advocates for critical race theory. And remember, good people, BLM also advocate for things through a queer and trans lens. And they are trained Marxists. Did you see about the one in Bristol that was part of putting down Colston's statue? Being done because 30 grand's gone missing. Huckster's going to huck. Grifter's going to grift. BLM has promoted riots and violence since its inception. It championed the idea that abolishing all police would help society, and it believes in breaking down the nuclear family. Breaking down the family was on their website in 2020, but they have since removed it because that was an unpopular idea to advertise. It's still up there though, isn't it? Eh? The founders, Patrice Couleurs, Alicia Garza and Opal Tometi, described their political orientation as Marxist, a political philosophy based on the work of 19th century author and political activist Karl Marx. The central premise of Marxist philosophy is that private ownership of the means of production will necessarily exploit the working class, which will bring the working class into conflict with the owners. The outcome of the conflict will be a utopian society, whereby the community ownership of production will be better allocated to meet the needs of the people, right? Critical race theory focuses not so much on the class of ownership, but on the race of ownership, attributing all societal problems to the white or white adjacent owners who have developed systems to oppress the black population. It's a cracking article. It's a brilliant introduction for those of you that are unfamiliar with the commonalities between critical race theory, queer theory, and gender identity ideology will, I think, find it particularly interesting. Thank you, Pamela. It's a brilliant piece of work. I think it's a really good article, and I do hope that people will go and read it and subscribe to your channel, right? So, I mean, that's as far as I'm concerned, all I want to give you today. So I'm going to go away and say thank you for coming. Ta-ra!